And the next step is I like to, don't go anywhere, I like to put some type of oil. So I'll get my shea butter mix and show you the big braids that I do for it to dry. My shea butter mix, all I did was, this is an old container of grease that I used to use in her hair the wrong way before I knew any better, but I saved these jars and now I make my own shea butter mix that I put in her hair, and it looks kind of like a creamy grease, but it's a little thicker. So I take some, about this much, put it in my hand and rub it, and the heat, see, it looks white at first, but the heat in my hands should melt it down. I put a little too much. You want to put a little bit less, because it really takes no time for the heat in your hands to melt it down, but since I put so much, it's just taking a little bit of time. See? And I just gently put some on her hair. I don't have to, I'm not putting, this is that amount I put on half of her head. So I'm going to get the same amount for the other half. Now I'm going to put more product in her hair when I'm styling it. This is just the first little bit so that her hair doesn't dry sticky and perfectly dry, because I want to retain some of that moisture. I want to trap some of that water that's in her hair from it being wet, so that her hair will be already somewhat moist before I start working with it. Because true moisture comes from water. This is Mocha Girl 3. Okay, so I just gently really concentrate on the ends more so than any other part of the hair, because that's the part of the hair that the sebum never really works its way down to. And if you notice, she already has a part in the middle of her head, because I tend to give her a middle part a lot. So the part is still there, and her hair is still relatively detangled. So at this point, I'm not using the Denman brush again. You know, if you had done the big fat braids, you'd be taking them out and putting a little bit of moisturizer in them and braiding them back up again. At this point, my fingers are enough to make sure all the strands are going in the same direction. And then all I do is I braid this big huge braid. And I don't do it as loosely as the wash braids, because I want it to stretch her hair out for combing a little bit as it dries. So, you know, I just smooth the hair all in the same direction. Once her hair is dry and I'm ready for styling, I'm going to be spritzing the hair again to make it damp so that I can work with it. Stop that. So that I can work with it. Notice I'm continuing all the way to the ends with the first 3 sections I started with. I'm not cheating and seeing, oh, this section is a little thinner than that section. Let me just grab a little bit from that section to make them the same. Because when I detangle, what that's going to do, I call that splicing. And what that's going to do is cause breakage and damage and knots. And we don't want that. Okay, so that's one section. And then I move on to the other section, and usually my goal, see how it's a little bit of tank, it caught a little bit there, so I just do a little tiny bit of pressure, not enough to make her scream or not enough to hurt her. And then when it gets free like that, I just smooth down the length of her hair like that with my fingers, which are the best tools to work with our hair. Lift your head up, sweetie. Then I go for my 3 sections of hair, like that, another section like that. See that? And the reason why it's easy for me to do that is because I did a good job with the Denman brush during the wash. And honestly, when it's time for styling, I'm going to do her hair in some twists or some big braids, or I haven't decided yet. But when it's time for styling, the only thing I'm going to be doing with my comb is making parts in order to grab sections of hair to twist. There's no more detangling going on. The detangling is done from the wash process. Okay, so this is the last section. Okay, so as I was saying, there's no more detangling going on. What I've learned is my goal with detangling is not to have hair that a comb can easily slip through, unless I'm doing a cornrow style or something that requires that. But if I'm doing twists or individual braids, I don't want any knots and snags in her hair. But just realize that natural hair is going to continue to coil and agitate around each other and tangle up a little bit. And that's just the way the hair behaves. So you drive yourself crazy getting upset every time you get some resistance when you try to slide something through the hair. So I think of the detangling, the main reason that it's important to detangle is to get rid of these little shed hairs. You know, we naturally shed about 80 to 100 hairs a day. And the shed hair is bothersome because it can get caught in the hair that's still attached to the scalp and cause knots and snarls. So we want to remove all the shed hair that we can. And so that's why I spend all that time detangling her whole head. But I know that I shouldn't expect her hair to stay, you know, so perfectly detangled that a comb can easily slip through at all times when it's soaking wet. That's not going to happen. That might happen after it's dry, you know, and you've detangled over and over and over. But that's never my goal, and I usually don't detangle their hair dry, so I usually never expect that. But it's very easy to work with, and it's not gonna lock, as some people, you know, are trying to. If you're trying to avoid locking, it's not gonna lock because it's not perfectly detangled and it doesn't behave like straight hair. All right, so I'm done, and that's it. She is ready to get, don't follow me. She is ready to get the hood put on. And see, now that she doesn't have as much, I tuck the braids under like that. And then I twist like that. See how easily it fits when your hair is all braided up? And that will gather all the drips, and she can play and roll around the floor and it won't come off her head. That's it.